will hold a video conference with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. High Representative Vice President Borrell will also participate. The video conference follows the 22nd EU-China summit that took place on 22 June and will be an opportunity to discuss and make progress and take stock of progress on key aspects of EU-China relations. A press conference will take place right after the meeting. The exact timing is to be confirmed, but I assume it will be around 4 p.m., so stay tuned. You will be able to follow it on EBS. I take this opportunity to draw your attention to the bilateral agreement with the EU and China, which was signed. It will protect 100 European geographical indications in China and 100 Chinese GIs in the European Union against usurpation and imitation. This agreement, first concluded in November 2019, should bring reciprocal trade benefits as well as introducing consumers to guaranteed quality products on both sides. You will find more information on the agreement and today's video conference in our daily news. And now let me call Johannes for an announcement on the interoperability of tracing apps. Jonathan. I said Jonathan, but I meant Johannes, sorry. Monday morning, apologies. Johannes, are you connected?
I am connected, but my microphone wasn't opened,
Sorry,
but now
Johannes.
it was.
Go ahead.
I was blocked. So indeed, we have encouraging news today on the work to link national coronavirus tracing and warning apps. As you know, the Commission is working on an interoperability gateway service, which makes sure that Europeans can alert others of an infection or receive an alert, even when traveling across borders with their own app. So this work is ongoing, and today we are kicking off a test, it's a so-called dry run, between the backend servers of 6 national apps that participate in that gateway. There will be more, but the dry run is with 6 apps this week. So these are the official apps of the Czech Republic, Denmark, Germany, Ireland, Italy, and Latvia. So these 6 apps will participate in the test this week. So then, if all goes well, the system will start to be operational during next month, which is October. We have more information in a press release.
Thank you, Johannes. Now over to Balázs for an announcement on additional support offered to Greece after the fires at the Moria camp.
Bonjour. Donc, toujours sur le camp de réfugiés de Moria, à la suite de l'incendie qui a frappé le camp la semaine passée, la Grèce a maintenant demandé de l'aide par l'intermédiaire du mécanisme de protection civile de l'Union européenne. Donc, dans l'intermédiaire, 5 États membres de l'UE, donc le Danemark, l'Autriche, la Finlande, la Suède et l'Allemagne, ont offert des centaines de tentes, de couvertures et de sacs de couchage. Ce nouveau soutien s'ajoute à l'aide envoyée par la Pologne, l'Autriche, la Tchéquie, le Danemark, les Pays-Bas et la France depuis avril. Cette aide inclut des unités de logement, des matelas, des couvertures et 4 conteneurs médicaux. À part ça, en réponse à une demande d'aide formulée par la Grèce au mois de mars, 17 États membres ont offert plus de 90 000 articles à la Grèce à travers le mécanisme de protection de civils. Le Centre de coordination des interventions d'urgence de la Commission reste en contact régulier, bien sûr, avec les autorités grecques pour suivre de près la situation et faciliter l'acheminement de l'aide de l'Union européenne.
Merci beaucoup, Balázs. Cela finalise nos annonces pour aujourd'hui. Nous sommes prêts à passer à vos questions. Et comme souvent, le premier à avoir levé sa main est Athanasio. Athanasio, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Bonjour. And I will go to the issue of Eastern Mediterranean and the actions of Turkey. Turkey is apparently removing trace from the specific area of exploration. So I would like your comment on whether this is de-escalation, is it deconfliction, is it the necessary precondition for dialogue? So if we have that in place, where is the dialogue now? When is it going to start? Second question, and it's related to the first one, we have seen some tweets over the last weeks, let's say, from senior EU officials quoting or retweeting the Turkish official positions on the Eastern Mediterranean issue. One of them is the managing director of the European External Action Service, Angelina Eichhorst. She is responsible for Western Balkans and Turkey, among other things. Another one was Stefano Manservisi, and of course, Natalie Tozzi, retweeting the Turkish position. So, what is your official Twitter policy on these things? Are they allowed to say their opinion? Are they allowed to retweet opinions of others and official positions of countries not members of the European Union? And what you going to do about it? Thanks.
Thank you, Athanasios, and good afternoon. A lot of issues you raised. So first, on the developments in the Eastern Mediterranean, we noted various announcements regarding the movement of the exploration ships, but and also various justifications for that. But it doesn't change anything on the main message as it was put by the EU foreign ministers when they met informally at the end of August in Berlin. That the EU needs to see the end of unilateral actions in the Eastern Mediterranean, which are being perceived as provocation by some of our EU member states, which are being perceived as irritants in our relations. And there is a forthcoming discussion on Turkey being held again by the foreign ministers in the framework of the FAC next Monday, and then the leaders of the EU member states will be discussing Turkey also at the European Council, and this will be opportunity for the member states to discuss, to have the full discussion on all aspects of EU-Turkey relationship, and also to see how do we want to take it forward in light of the recent and latest developments in the Eastern Mediterranean. Second part of your question, I would not really go into commenting on who tweets or retweets what, but it's very important to see whether the official EU position is somehow affected by it, and it's not, because I think most of these people have some kind of a disclaimer whether they are tweeting in their personal capacity, whether the retweets is meaning that this person agrees with the statement or not. So the positions of the EU are being conveyed very clearly also through normal diplomatic channels and through normal communication channels in forms of statements, decisions, or declaration by the EU.
Follow up, please.
Athanasios, follow up, yes.
Yes, I can imagine that some of them may have a disclaimer, but I know that others don't. And especially this managing director has no disclaimer that I can see on her Twitter account. I don't have a problem with anybody's views, and we're not discussing the essence of what they're tweeting. What we are discussing here is an issue of communication. Greece is a member state, and it has a public opinion, and that public opinion goes to elections and they vote. Now, when they see, and when there is an excuse to see European officials tweeting various things, I don't care what, then we have a tidal wave of populism that we have to contain. And as we, I define those who like and promote and disseminate the European idea. So it's very hard for some of us to do our job when we have something like this out there. So as the European Commission is a very, solid institution, and you have rules in place for many things, I was wondering, don't you have rules on how various people interfere with your central communication channel? Because the central communication channel, the one that we are officially paying for, may be affected and may be, undermined by the actions and opinions and tweets of various individuals. That's why I'm asking. So that was the third part of my question. What are you going to do now about it, now that you know?
If I may, Athanasios, thank you for your question. We all know how sensitive indeed the issue of social media can be. You're absolutely right that this is something that is watched by the Commission. There are guidelines, which I do not have now at the top of my head, but that relate to how social media in particular should be used by officials of the European Commission. Clearly, retweeting in general is not an expression of any view of the European Union. I think that's widely accepted whether you have a disclaimer on your site or not, or else every time a journalist retweets something by somebody, we would have to consider that the journalist somehow considers that this is a view of his. I don't think that that would be appropriate either. Clearly, the communication on EU policies comes from this podium, from the spokespeople, from the commissioners. When things are retweeted by accounts of officials, it is simply that they think that something is worth attention. Full stop. Okay, are there other questions for us on relations with Turkey and developments in the file related to Turkey? Please keep your hand up only if it is on this. Lawrence, you have your hand raised. Go ahead. Lawrence, you have the floor.
I'm sorry, it's not on Turkey, Eric.
Ah, okay. We'll come back to you later. Then, Gül, je pense que c'est la première fois que j'ai le plaisir de t'accueillir dans notre salle de presse. Tu as la parole. Il faut que tu appuies sur le bouton Speak. Voilà.
C'est exact. Voilà, tout à fait. Comme je suis néophyte dans le système, je commence à apprendre petit à petit. Voilà. Mais je vais malheureusement poser ma question à Peter en anglais. Voilà. You have said in your statement, I have two questions. You have said on your statement that withdrawing or to trace the seismic boat from Eastern Mediterranean does not change the message sees, which is the end of unilateral actions in the region. So I was wondering, what else are you expecting then from Turkey to in order to start the dialogue? And my second part of the question is that Greece was, particularly the Prime Minister, was raising the issue that Turkey should withdraw their vessels and from the region in order to start a dialogue. Since they are withdrawn now, is there any appetite from the High Representative to start a kind of dialogue, at least this week, or at least to put some pressure to start a certain dialogue between Turkey and Greece on that aspect? Thank you.
Thank you. What I said is that without going into details of individual developments or announcements about the developments, of which we take note, of course, what is paramount and what is the most important is the fact that the EU expectation or the expectations of the EU were made very clear. The timelines within which this expectation should be met or fulfilled was also made very clear. And there is the forthcoming discussion planned by the foreign ministers, by the leaders of the EU member states, where they will assess what was done, in fact, not only in terms of announcements, but what was done, in what scope, in what way, in order to de-escalate the situation, because this is what we wanted to see right from the start. De-escalation, stopping of unilateral actions that are fueling the escalations. And if you were referring specifically to the withdrawal or the announced withdrawal of the ship, I mean, we noted also the announcement that the withdrawal is only for refueling. So without commenting on every single public declaration, what is important is the follow-up, implementation, and the assessment by the EU member states to see in how far the situation in the Eastern Mediterranean has in fact de-escalated, and what will be the next step on the side of the European Union, in what way we are going to shape our relationship and communication with Turkey. And when it comes to the HRVP, he is constantly engaged in the dialogue. He is promoting the dialogue, and he is the one who is taking the dialogue forward, and that I think the proof are his numerous contacts with Mevlut Çavuşoğlu, his Turkish counterpart, and also with the foreign ministers of the member states and some other actors who are being contacted regularly and who are in consultation regularly with the HRVP. So a lot is going on, a lot of is happening in this vein. But as I said, the most important in this sense will be the discussion by the EU member states to see how we want to proceed and to have the assessment jointly among the EU 27 what has been in fact done in order to de-escalate and to stop the unilateral actions which are being perceived and which were perceived as irritants and as a provocation by some of our EU member states.
Thank you, Peter. Moses, your question on Turkey. If so, please go ahead.
Yes, Eric, thank you. In fact, it's a very brief, let's say, follow-up question to Athanasios' question to Peter about this retweeting by senior officials in the Action Service. As far as I know, I think that the Commission has a very restrictive policy when it comes to officials' right to publish their opinions, whether it's op-eds or now, I think, social media. And in this case, I don't think it helps if you add a disclaimer saying you're writing a personal capacity. Usually, as far as I know, you need the permission from your Director General to publish something. So you might ask if this was the case here. Thank you.
Mose, I have not seen the tweets. I cannot answer, but the rules are not exactly as you express them. In fact, officials can express their personal opinions on lots of issues. But in the case in point, when you're talking about a retweet, there is no personal opinion expressed. It is not something which is written by the official personally, and therefore it's a completely different ballgame. If there is a tweet that is written by the official on an issue related to his or her file, then we are, of course, in a situation where they have to make sure that they are expressing official positions or commenting on official positions. I'm not aware that this was the case here. If it is, then we will come back to the issue. Are there other questions for Peter on the relationship with Turkey or on events in the area? I see Philip. Is it on this? No, it's not on Foreign Affairs, sorry. So Lawrence, sorry, we go to you. I'm having problems with my first names this morning. Sorry for that. Monday morning syndrome. Lawrence, we go to you for another Foreign Affairs issue. Lawrence, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Partly about the statements that the EU has made this morning, but also about the case in general. There are claims in media, European media, that the EU did nothing to push for Mr. Afkari to be spared before his execution over the weekend. I'd like to get on the record the EU's response to that. It is true that there wasn't a statement calling for him to be spared in advance, but that doesn't necessarily mean, of course, that privately we weren't urging that. So if Peter could get that on the record. And then I'd like to come to the statement that was put out this morning, and also a statement that was emailed to me over the weekend. The statement very clearly condemns the execution of Mr. Afkari under the guise of EU opposition to the death penalty. But I want to know, is that the only problem we have with this execution? It's been widely said that he was forced into a confession by Amnesty, many other groups and organizations. Why is it that we do not address that concern in the statements and comments we've made on the record?
Thank you, Lawrence. I would not go into commenting several claims in the media as you mentioned them, because that's not our role. Our role is to both do something in order to advance EU's positions and inform about it in an appropriate way. And now, depending on the situation, sometimes you don't say some things which you are doing very openly, because diplomacy is also about being discreet. But when it comes to the execution of Mr. Afkari, I think our statement issued this morning was very clear. We condemned his execution in the strongest possible terms. Among other things, we repeated our opposition to the death penalty as such, but what is also important, what we stressed was the attachment of the EU to the issue of human rights and our long-standing engagement on this issue with our partners, including with Iran. And this most recent execution, since you mentioned that one, is being taken up immediately for the follow-up with the Iranian authorities. Before that, we conveyed our views also on the issue, also publicly at the UN forums, for example, but also in other ways. So this is as much as I would say on the record, but I can assure you that this issue and several other issues which have something to do with the human rights, with the treatment of people being imprisoned, investigated, tortured, or people whose right to the due process has been denied, we are taking this up. Doesn't necessarily need to be said in every single statement, but what was important about the statement this morning was to join the voice of worldwide condemnations, or the series of worldwide condemnations of this execution. And the statement speaks for itself, so we condemn this in the strongest possible terms. As we are saying also, these issues are being taken up and handled by us in our contacts with Iranian partners, and it will continue to be the case also in the future.
Thank you. Are there other questions for Peter on the foreign affairs today? Lawrence, you have a follow-up?
That's not really good enough. I'm not asking Peter to comment on claims in the media. I'm asking a very simple question. Did the EU call privately or publicly for Mr. Afkari to be released, or his execution not to be pursued? Did they make that call? It's a yes or no answer. And I'm sorry, the statement is not very clear. The statement does not mention anywhere a question about whether he was fairly convicted. We do this routinely in other cases, whether it's Belarus or a mass execution in Saudi Arabia. And it looks in the Iranian case as if we're not doing that because we do not want to annoy the Iranians, who are very sensitive about the human rights issue. So let us be clear. Does the EU believe that he was fairly convicted, or does the EU not believe that?
Well, first part of your question, you wanted yes or no. I can only repeat that we condemned and raised this execution and the others both publicly enough, including in the UN forums, and also privately in our contacts with the Iranian counterparts. Second part of your question, I can only reinforce what I said. The issue of human rights, the treatment of detainees, especially political detainees, or treatment of people who have been detained on reasons which are very questionable and doubtful, we are taking this up with the Iranian partners because human rights are a feature which is high on our agenda in our dealings with any partner in the world, and we have no reason to be silent about that.
Thank you, Peter. Are there other questions for Peter on international issues? I see lots of hands raised which are not on this according to the comments I see. But David, you have a question on China. So it's Nabila, but still foreign affairs.
Sorry. Sorry. Thank you, Rick, and good morning, good afternoon. According to media report, a China company has compiled a big database of tens of thousands of European people, their children, their families, for the use of the country's intelligence agencies. This company is called Zenhua Data. And it said that it provides services for military, security, and foreign propaganda, and have sold data to security clients in China. I'm wondering if you have any reaction to this news, and if it would be compatible with, even if it's legal, it's profiling, it would be compatible in this way, in massive way, in a relationship of trust with the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not aware of this media report that you refer to, but I pass the floor to Nabila in case she has any comment to make.
Good morning, David. Well, I'm not aware also of this media report or of this what you just stated right now. I would rather come back to you on this one, check, and come back to you on this one, David. Thank you.
Thank you, Nabila. And David, you can trust us. We really try to follow on what's going on in the media, but it's very, very difficult for us at midday to answer claims on everything that appears in the media on a particular day. We'll be happy to come back to you bilaterally on this. I see that there is a question from Ekrem related to foreign relations on sanctions to Russia. Ekrem, you have the floor.
In fact, I have three questions. Two go on sanctions, and then the third goes to Kosovo-Serbia dialogue and energy specifically. I start with the first one, and I believe it goes to Peter. We are reading today that a opposition member in Montenegro, which is going to be a lawmaker in the next parliament, is calling the new government, the upcoming new government, to cancel the sanctions on Russia. That means the alignment of Montenegro to the EU sanctions on Russia. That's first. And my question is, if that happens, how will that affect the Montenegro negotiations with EU?
Sorry,
second,
if what happens?
What happens?
Oops.
Aligning with the EU sanctions on Russia. How will that affect? Yeah, sorry for not being clear. How will that affect the ongoing negotiations of Montenegro with the EU on membership? Second, Serbia has aligned itself with a declaration of the EU, sorry, on the related to the elections, presidential election in Belarus. Now, starting from that point, does the EU expect Serbia to align with expected sanctions of the EU on Belarus? And if not, how will that affect the ongoing accession negotiation of Serbia with the EU?
Thank you, Ekrem.
Thank you, Ekrem.
Both of your questions contain the element what if, and you know that we are not in business of speculating. The alignment and progressive alignment with EU's foreign policy positions is one of the obligations in the accession process, and the countries know about it. So on Montenegro, I would not go into commenting, again, remarks by one politician, especially if it's not followed up by concrete actions. And on the second question also, I mean, if we sanction Belarus, and there's no question actually if we will be sanctioning those responsible for the intolerable, unacceptable repression in Belarus. And hopefully we will see some results in this soon. But the countries in the accession process are expected to progressively align their policies with the policies of the EU. No question about that. And you had a third question on Kosovo-Serbia dialogue, right?
Yes, and that particularly concerns to the energy. I don't know if you eventually can answer or Tim. Should I shoot with the question and then we see?
Yes, since you have the floor, go ahead.
Since you have the floor, go ahead. Yes. There is one sentence in the signatures made by both leaders of Kosovo and Serbia, which refers to the energy diversification. Now, we are learning from the Kosovo government side and also by the American Development Finance Corporation, that when it comes to Kosovo, is about the American LNG from port of Thessaloniki and through Greece, through Montenegro, Macedonia, up to Kosovo. As the American official, Mr. Palmer, has met a week ago with Mr. Lajcak, I'm wondering whether Mr. Lajcak was debriefed by Mr. Palmer on this specific infrastructure project, and will EU in any way possible be involved in this, in terms of helping development of gas infrastructure from Macedonia to Kosovo?
Thank you, Ekrem. question for Peter, in fact.
Thanks. Very general remark. Again, what both Kosovo and Serbia signed in White House is expression of their bilateral commitments by each with the United States. And when they came to Brussels a few days afterwards for the next round of the high-level dialogue last Monday, they issued jointly a commitment or a statement where they stated that the recently agreed documents in Washington, which are building on previous dialogue-related commitments undertaken by both parties, could provide a useful contribution to reaching the final comprehensive legally binding agreement on normalizations of their relations. So, and as we said before, anything that can feed into this process is a positive development. Details of their commitments signed and expressed towards the United States need to be followed up, and the follow-up needs to be in line with their European aspirations. And since we mentioned this issue, just I would use the opportunity to say that, as flagged at the end of that part of the meeting last Monday, the EU Special Representative Lajčák announced next rounds, both at the expert level and on the highest level. So I can confirm that we will welcome the chief negotiators in Brussels this week for the follow-up on their discussions, on the discussions we had last Monday in Brussels. And the topics under discussion are arrangements for the non-majority community and settlement of mutual financial claims and property, because this is part of the comprehensive legally binding normalization agreement I was mentioning a short while ago.
Thank you, Peter. Pascal, is your question on foreign affairs? Pascal Hansens.
Non, malheureusement, non. C'est sur
Alors,
l'espace.
il faut te mettre dans la file. Nous reviendrons vers toi ultérieurement. Je ne vois plus de main levée sur les questions relations internationales. Donc, je reviens, merci Peter, je reviens à Alexander qui a une question sur sur l'annonce que nous avons faite aujourd'hui, que Johannes a faite aujourd'hui. Johannes, pardon, d'abord la question. Pardon. Alexander, you have the floor.
The gateway for the interoperability of contact tracing apps will be operational from October. And this will kind of make all apps connect with each other, all EU apps connect with each other, except for, I assume, the one in France, because it runs in an entirely different framework that is not compatible. But so, from what I understand, the whole framework just covers EU apps. And so Switzerland and the UK have apps that work in the same technical framework that would be easy to connect. I understand that Norway is working on a new app that will also be on the Apple-Google framework, which also would be quite easy to connect. But out of some reason, they are not part of the EU interoperability framework. And so voices in Switzerland have actually complained about this. There's also a German MEP, Andreas Schwab, who told the Swiss newspaper NZZ that he's quite dissatisfied with that, because he said, well, there's a lot of cross-border movement between Switzerland and the EU, and there is no obvious reason why there wouldn't be a need for controlling the infections. So my question is it political that the Commission excluded Switzerland, the UK, and Norway from the interoperability framework? Can you comment on that in any way?
Thank you, Alexander. I pass the floor to Johannes.
Yeah, thank you, Alexander, for the question. I think we need to take a step back. So if you go back, for example, to April, when the discussion started on the apps and then later on interoperability, they happened in the eHealth network. The eHealth network is an informal network of member states, digital and health authorities. So this is where the discussion takes place. Now, if you want to, so we start, let's say, from an EU perspective, because this is the forum in which a discussion took place on the toolbox that we had on the apps, on the guidance applies, of course, and on the interoperability parameters and technical specifications that were spelled out way before the gateway now entered into force. We are aware of the letter, by the way, that you mentioned. So the participation in the gateway is connected to either being a member state or being an EEA area, European Economic Area, and taking part in these discussions. No, Switzerland is neither nor. So if there was just in theory be a third country participating, then of course there would need to be some sort of basis for this agreement to take part. It's not something we would need to have some sort of let's say a bilateral agreement with that third country and the EU. Be it Switzerland or anybody else. Just let me add one last sentence. The Swiss Federal Councillor Berset and Commissioner Kyriakides exchanged already on this issue, and they remain in contact. For the moment, I can't tell you more, but just that you know, it's on our radar, and there are contacts on that issue taking place.
Thank you very much, Johannes. Are there other questions on this issue? Philippe, you have your hand raised still. Is it on this? No? Yes? Philip, go ahead.
It's on another topic.
Okay, so hold on. Okay, I see no other questions for Johannes on this. So indeed, we go to you, Philip. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's on Moria once again, not on the present situation in the camp or around the camp, but on the past. Has the Commission ever had, in the last years, initiated an infringement procedure against Greece on this topic, on the topic of accommodation?
Philip, I'm sorry, but we cannot not understand what you're saying. Your mic connection is extremely bad. There's a lot of background noise. So perhaps if you want to type your question to us, and we will try to answer it, but make it short. We will try to come back to you once you've typed your question. So now let me move to Tommaso. Tommaso, you have the floor. On Sure, I believe. If you're still there. Yes. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking my question. Tommaso Galavotti, in Kronos, Italy. It's just a question on Sure, because the Commissioner Gentiloni said that the process of ratification has ended, and I wonder when will be the first issuance of bonds by the European Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Marta will answer your question.
Good afternoon, Tommaso. Thank you for your question. So indeed, what Commissioner Gentiloni was referring to was the part related to the signature of the guarantee agreements, which is indeed very close to finalization. We still need a couple of formal steps on our side to make this happen. We will communicate it, obviously, as soon as this is ready. The second step, which is needed in order for the Commission to be able to borrow on the markets, is actually for the Council to approve the Council implementing decisions proposed by the Commission for the 16 member states which have requested support under Sure. And we again hope that this will happen very shortly and still this month. Please feel free to contact the Council press service to inquire about the specific date of approval. But on our side, once the legal steps are concluded, of course, then we will be able to go on the markets and borrow the necessary funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. Yes, Tommaso, you have a follow-up.
Just a quick follow-up. So we can expect it in October, is that right? Thank you.
Again, I cannot give you a precise timeline at this stage. As I said, the legal steps need to be finalized before the Commission is able to go on the market. So, and again, we will obviously communicate on that part as well. Thank you.
So stay tuned, Tommaso. I see that Pascal has two questions, one of which is on Sure. So start with that one. Go ahead.
Oui, bonjour, vous m'entendez?
Oui, Pascal, vas-y.
Eh bien, effectivement, une question sur SURE. La première vient d'être répondue à l'instant. Ma deuxième, c'est au sujet de la Hongrie. Est-ce que, parce que la Hongrie avait formulé une demande, et il me semble que une réponse positive de la Commission se fait toujours attendre, et je voulais en savoir un peu plus sur ce sujet. Merci.
Merci Pascal. Effectivement, la Hongrie a fait une demande auprès de la Commission pour accéder au mécanisme SURE. Nous sommes toujours en contact avec les autorités hongroises afin de clarifier certains éléments sur les mesures qu'ils proposent de financer par l'instrument. Pour l'instant, ces discussions sont encore en cours, donc nous n'avons malheureusement rien encore à annoncer à ce sujet. Merci.
Merci Pascal. Nous reviendrons vers toi ultérieurement sur ta question espace. Y a-t-il d'autres questions sur SURE pour Marta? Naomi, is your question on SURE? Please only keep your hand raised if it's the case.
Yeah, it's on SURE, yeah.
Excellent, go ahead.
Just a quick one. Can you say if you're expecting an application from Ireland? Thank you.
For the moment, I believe we have not yet received an application from Ireland, but there were indeed talks with the Irish authorities on this issue.
Thank you.
Just if I could follow up then, I mean, is there time pressure here given the, things are moving on, other states have already made an application? When would Ireland need to get one in? Thanks.
It is obviously up to the Irish authorities to put forward their request. As I said, we are now in the process of approval of the Council implementing decisions in the Council. So yeah, that's all I can say at this stage. Thank you.
Okay. Pascal had a follow-up on Hungary. Quels sont les points avec la Hongrie?
Merci Pascal. Comme mentionné, les discussions techniques portent sur le type de mesures que la Hongrie propose de financer dans le cadre de l'instrument SURE.
Merci. Mathieu, est-ce une question sur SURE?
Ce n'est pas une question sur SURE, mais c'est pour Marta concernant la communication de la Commission sur la facilité de relance et de résilience.
Alors attends, car il y a d'autres personnes. Paola, is your question on SURE? Paola? No, hand no longer raised. So let's stay with questions for Marta on other issues. I know that Mose had a question on minimum wage. Mose, you have the floor.
President von der Leyen in a Swedish daily on, let's say, a coming Commission proposal on fair minimum wages, which has been subject to a public consultation, which obviously ended at the beginning of September. She tried to assure Sweden that the proposal wouldn't affect the Swedish system of social bargaining. So my question is, when do you think will such a proposal be presented to the Council? And can it be in the form of a legislative proposal, or will it be a kind of communication for the social partners? Thank you.
Thank you, Mose. As you know, we're not really in the business of making pre-announcements of proposals that are going to come from the Commission. You know that this issue was not only in the political guidelines, but it has been the subject of a public consultation. The President has indeed just published an op-ed on this issue. In terms of the follow-up to this, I would ask you please to wait for the official announcements once they come. Okay, Mathieu, we come back to you with your question on the Recovery and Resilience Facility.
Oui, c'était effectivement pour en savoir un petit peu plus sur cette communication, quels en sont les objectifs, et si vous considérez qu'il faut lier les fonds de la facilité, notamment avec des mesures de respect d'état de droit. Merci.
Je vais peut-être répondre à la première question. Donc effectivement, la Commission envisage de présenter une communication qui va clarifier la mise en œuvre de la facilité de résilience et de relance. Et va également expliquer comment cette facilité va interagir avec le semestre européen. Et la Commission travaille également sur des guidelines, donc un document très précis et des templates, donc des tableaux pour aider les États membres dans la préparation de leur plan de résilience et de relance.
En ce qui concerne la conditionnalité, c'est un sujet qui a été déjà largement évoqué, où la Commission a fait part de sa position, comme j'ai eu l'occasion de le dire déjà, je crois, la semaine dernière, lors du discours de la présidente après le Conseil européen, lorsqu'elle était en plénière au Parlement. Il y a une proposition sur la table en ce qui concerne les liens entre l'état de droit et les fonds communautaires. Nous travaillons avec la présidence pour faire avancer les discussions et pour le moment, c'est le seul commentaire que nous avons à faire sur ce sujet. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour Martha ? Je ne vois qu'une seule main levée. Je ne sais pas si c'est pour Martha. Paola, you have raised your hand. You have the floor. But you need to press speak.
That's always the case. Thanks. I have two questions. One is about conditionality, but this time on green strings. So in the Recovery and Resilience Facility, when it came out, the proposed regulation, there was an attachment which was about how the Commission will evaluate the various national recovery plans. And there was some backlash from NGOs and environmentalists who said this was too weak a framework to assess whether a national plan would be in line with the Green Deal. So I wonder if you can say something more about these templates and les tableaux, if there will be more detailed clarification of what are the Green Deal requirements of national plan. And then the other question is just procedural. We had seen last week an agenda in which it was planned for presentation tomorrow. Apology if I missed this, my Wi-Fi is not good, but is it going to be tomorrow, or if not, when, and why has it been delayed? Thanks.
Thank you. Well, the first thing to say is, as I repeat very regularly here, it's not because something is on the liste des points prévus at any particular point in time that it means it's fixed for that day, and that if it's moved to another date, that there is a delay. This is simply a planning tool for the Commission in order to organize work, but there are many, many reasons that can lead to a point shifting in the liste des points prévus without this meaning that there is an issue in terms of the substance. And this is really something to be kept in mind. Secondly, I said indeed at the beginning of this midday briefing that I could not yet confirm the agenda for the college meeting tomorrow because Hebdo was still ongoing at the time that this press briefing started. You are right that it was on the LPP for this week's college, so we will be able to update you tomorrow. And once that is the case, we will certainly then, at the right point in time, be able to provide you with all the technical explanations as to the proposal with no delay. But today, as we speak, we're not in a position to go with you into the detail of the things which are related to this issue and to conditionality in this respect. So stay tuned. Are there other questions for Martha? Mathieu, est-ce que ta question est pour Martha?
Oui, c'était juste une petite remarque justement concernant les points à l'ordre du jour de la Commission. Peut-être ce serait utile de dire quand certains points sont retirés, parce qu'on ne peut pas en déduire que ce que vous annoncez ou les choses sur lesquelles vous communiquez, par défaut, ce qui n'est pas mis en lumière est forcément rejeté. Du coup, peut-être des informations sur les points qui étaient annoncés à l'ordre du jour, puis finalement retirés, nous aiderait dans notre travail. Ensuite, pour revenir sur la facilité, ce qui m'interpelle, c'est qu'une communication maintenant, alors que le texte législatif lui-même n'est pas finalisé, par exemple, je pense à l'adoption même par la Commission d'une décision sur les plans nationaux de réforme. Le Conseil veut des actes d'exécution, le Parlement veut des actes délégués. En quoi cette communication adoptée maintenant clarifierait les procédures qui sont pas finalisées d'un point de vue législatif?
Merci. Martha, sur la seconde question.
Oui, merci Mathieu. Bien sûr, la commission travaille très dur avec les co-législateurs afin de s'assurer que la législation soit donc adoptée dans les meilleurs délais pour effectivement que la facilité puisse rentrer, soit mise en œuvre à partir de l'année prochaine et donc aider à la relance économique qui est tout à fait nécessaire. Ce que nous avons également dit, c'est que nous souhaitons que ces fonds puissent être déboursés le plus vite possible et pour ça, il nous est bien sûr nécessaire d'avoir des plans de relance et de résilience qui soient sur lesquels on a déjà pu avoir une discussion approfondie avec les États membres. Et effectivement, nous avons encouragé les États membres à nous fournir ces plans à partir du 15 octobre pour qu'on puisse effectivement pouvoir en discuter pendant les prochains mois. Bien évidemment, la soumission officielle des plans ne pourra être qu'à partir du 1er janvier 2021, dans le moment où la législation sera entrée en vigueur. Mais donc effectivement, cette communication a pour but donc d'aider les États membres à déjà préparer des plans d'ébauche, donc d'entamer cette discussion avec la Commission afin d'être prêt pour les soumettre le moment venu, donc à partir du 1er janvier si tout se déroule comme prévu, et donc voilà, pourrait avoir accès à ces fonds le plus vite possible. Merci.
Voilà, nous sommes en flux tendu. Nous voulons absolument nous assurer que le processus de préparation ne soit pas freiné par quelques procédures que ce soit. Il s'agit de s'assurer que nous soyons en mesure de répondre aux besoins des entreprises et des citoyens dès que le cadre législatif aura été finalement adopté. Je crois que ça, c'est très important. Philip, Adalbert tells me that he will come back to you bilaterally on your question related to infringement procedure in the past on the accommodation situation in Moria. He cannot answer that question now, so he will come back to you. Okay. Hans, you have the floor. If you're able to connect. Don't forget our famous button. Okay, you seem to be having yes. Go ahead.
So now I'm connected?
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. Perfect. Sorry about that. Hans von der Böchert from Politico. Question on Moria and German media reports that there is a plan by Commission President von der Leyen to rebuild the Moria camp with EU funds and run it as an EU refugee camp. There's a report by German media that this has been agreed together with the Greek Prime Minister and German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Can you comment on that?
Thank you. I pass the floor to Adalbert.
Hello, Hans. So the current state of play on this issue is as follows. You may have seen that, first of all, Prime Minister Mitsotakis announced on the 13th of September, so yesterday, that a new facility would be created in Lesbos, and we understand that the full plan for the management of the situation will be announced in the coming days. But the Prime Minister also suggested that the new facilities should be managed jointly by the European Union and Greece. And in fact, Vice President Schinas, who was in Greece on Friday, expressed openness to this idea. Now, this idea is under further discussion. As you know, also, Commissioner Johansson is in constant contact with the Greek authorities about the management of migration in Greece and the reception situation, and this is an issue that will also be discussed in that context. There are long-standing plans of the Greek authorities to build appropriate new facilities on these islands, and EU financing for these is already identified. So there is a lot of discussions and, in fact, processes in place that would enable us to build on rapidly. I think that's as much as I can say at this point about these ongoing discussions.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions for Adalbert on the issue of Moria? David, you have the floor.
Merci, merci Eric. Oui, la question est très simple. En 2016, après l'accord avec la Turquie et la décision de garder les migrants sur les îles, l'Union européenne avait annoncé un super plan, la commission Juncker, un super plan avec des milliers de fonctionnaires européens pour aider la Grèce. 1500 fonctionnaires Frontex, 50 experts Frontex pour les rampatriement, 400 experts EASO, plus 400 interprètes, même 30 juges, des bateaux, des bus, un avion, etc. Il y avait un coordinateur, Martin Vervey, il y avait un steering committee avec tous les acteurs. Quelle est la différence avec le plan actuel pour Moria? Merci.
Adalbert.
Bonjour David. Bon, je ne sais pas tout à fait comment approcher ta question dans le sens où actuellement la situation sur l'île de Lesbos et maintenant l'ancien camp de Moria est extrêmement complexe. C'est une situation d'urgence que les autorités grecques, avec notre soutien et par ailleurs le soutien des États membres, comme Balázs l'a rappelé tout à l'heure, sont en train de gérer de manière urgente. Comme je viens de le dire, le plan de moyen terme pour le développement futur de cette situation, ou pour la gestion future de cette situation, sera annoncé ultérieurement par les autorités grecques. Du côté de la Commission, nous continuons évidemment à assister les autorités grecques aussi bien que nous pouvons. Nous continuons à avoir un certain nombre de plusieurs centaines de fonctionnaires, voire de personnel plutôt, des différentes agences qui est sur le terrain, qui assistent les autorités grecques dans l'appréciation de la situation et dans le développement éventuel de mesures supplémentaires. Par ailleurs, comme je l'ai dit, nous avons travaillé avec les autorités grecques depuis un long moment maintenant sur le développement de nouvelles facilités sur les îles. Nous avons identifié aussi des financements pour réaliser ces projets. Mais actuellement, nous sommes dans une situation d'urgence et il faudra patienter encore quelques jours pour avoir vraiment la clarté sur comment cette situation sera gérée à moyen terme. Dans ce contexte, par ailleurs, je peux rappeler quelque chose que tu sais sans aucun doute extrêmement bien, qui est que nous travaillons sur une nouvelle politique, un nouveau pacte sur la migration et l'asile qui sera présenté bientôt et qui apportera entre autres des solutions qui permettront aux procédures d'être plus rapides, toutes les procédures qui concernent la gestion des migrations, pour éviter que des personnes se trouvent dans des situations prolongées d'incertitude.
Merci. Je vois David que tu avais un follow-up avant même la réponse. Vas-y.
Oui, parce que la réponse était sur l'urgence. Moi, je parle évidemment de Moria 2.0, ou le camp plus moderne, comme l'a défini le vice-président Skinas. Et je me demande où la Commission, ça c'est les paroles du vice-président Skinas, pourrait jouer un rôle plus actif, en particulier en coordonnant les acteurs qui sont déjà présents sur l'île. Je me demande quelle est la différence par rapport à 2016, quand vous avez mis sur la table un plan avec des milliers de fonctionnaires européens qui devaient aller là-bas et résoudre la situation, et on a eu Moria 1, et maintenant on fait la même chose en promettant Moria 2, quand le seul but Ça, c'est mon impression, mais je crois que c'est un fait. Le seul but, c'est de tenir les migrants dans les îles grecques. Je veux dire, on change de politique ou on continue avec je veux dire, la fumée sur les yeux. On va faire Moria 2 comme Moria 1. Ça, c'est le problème.
Excuse-moi, David, mais c'est la même question que la première. Tu demandes de nouveau quelle est la différence entre le plan qu'on a présenté en 2016 et les déclarations sur la situation actuelle. Et je crains qu'Adalbert a répondu ce qu'il avait à dire sur ce point. Nous ne pouvons rien rajouter sur cette question pour le moment. Il a dit que nous clarifierions les choses une fois que nos propositions seraient plus claires. Voilà. Alors, y a-t-il d'autres questions pour Adalbert, de manière plus générale, sur les questions de migration? Je n'en vois pas, et donc je reviens à Pascal avec la question sur l'espace.
Oui, voilà, une question espace assez brève. Je voulais savoir où on en était sur la nomination du directeur de la GSA, l'agence en charge de Galileo, et je voulais savoir si on avait déjà des noms sur la table de la part de la Commission européenne, et enfin s'il était possible d'avoir un directeur de l'agence alors qu'il n'y a toujours pas d'accord sur le règlement relatif au programme spatial de l'Union européenne. Merci.
Bonjour Pascal, merci beaucoup pour ta question. Selon les procédures applicables, la Commission a envoyé une liste avec des candidats sélectionnés à l'agence. Et maintenant, sur la base de cette recommandation par la Commission, c'est pour le conseil d'administration de l'agence de prendre la décision. Et le conseil, comme tu le sais probablement, est composé par représentants des États membres et aussi des membres de l'agence et aussi de la Commission. Ce vote devrait se tenir demain et je suppose qu'après-demain, on va pouvoir t'informer sur le candidat qui a été sélectionné.
Merci. Je ne vois pas d'autres questions pour nous. Si, pardon, Joe Barnes. Joe, I suspect it's not on this. Oh, follow-up, sorry. First a follow-up from Pascal. Sorry, Joe, we'll be back. Pascal, you have a follow-up. Tu as une deuxième question.
Oui, tout à fait. Sur la deuxième partie de ma question, est-ce qu'on peut connaître déjà les noms qui sont sur la table puisqu'il y a un vote demain?
Je ne suis pas en mesure d'annoncer le nom à ce moment-là.
Merci. Donc, j'en reviens à Joe. Joe, you have the floor. Thank you, Sonia.
Thanks, Eric. And yes, you assumed right, it'd be a question for either Dan or yourself. So yesterday, David Frost, Britain's chief Brexit negotiator, put out a tweet on the issue of third country listings. And in that, he made a reference. He said, "It has been made clear to us in the current talks that there is no guarantee of listing us," referring to the UK. "I'm afraid it has also been said to us explicitly in these talks that if we are not listed, we will not be able to move food to the Northern Ireland." So has Mr. Barnier or another EU official in these negotiations explicitly said that to British negotiators, or are they playing kind of fast and loose with the truth, as Michel Barnier kind of suggested with Boris Johnson over this issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Indeed, there's a lot of communication taking place over Twitter these days. Look, we've said and we've written all that is necessary on this issue at this point in time. The withdrawal agreement is the underpinning and it's the framework for our relationship with the UK. No ifs, no buts. Questions related to the implementation of the withdrawal agreement are meant to be discussed and resolved in the joint committee. We've played a straight bat on this. We have set this out extremely clearly, and the rest, frankly, is internal debate in the United Kingdom. We're not going to get involved in the comments and remarks that are made by different players. That is all we have to say at this point in time. Thank you. Are there other issues for us today? I see a question from Nick. Nick, you have the floor.
Technical. Oh.
We lost the connection with you, Nick. Try again.
How about now?
Working.
Brilliant, thanks.
Working.
It's just a quick follow-up on Joe, because the listing issue is, as I understand it, less to do with the withdrawal agreements, and it's more a technical exercise on food safety standards. I mean, the UK side says that it's going to continue to apply EU standards from the start of next year, and that if it's going to change those, it will notify the EU in good time, as is sort of international standards. So I just, what is the process on this? If the UK comes back in writing and says we're going to carry on applying EU food safety standards, is there any reason for the EU not to list the UK?
No, again, I mean, we're not going to start commenting on every assertion which is made in social media or in the media by different counterparts on this issue. There are proper channels of communication between the Commission and the United Kingdom on this, and I have absolutely nothing to add to what I have said just before. Are there other questions for us today on this? Or more generally, I do not see any, so thank you for your participation and see you tomorrow.